What's up guys, Sub-Zero here, back for actually not a VOD review. This is going to be more of a discussion type video about a recent controversy about a bug in the TFT scene. This is a bug that greatly impacted the EMEA Golden Spatula, the regionals EMEA. This qualifies as people in EU, Middle East, and Africa to the World Championship. So this was a hugely influential bug. You can see I'm standing up here. This is me standing up because this topic is so important. I can't even sit down for it. So let's get into it. First, let's look at a clip of the bug as it happened here. And I want you guys, if you haven't seen this clip already, just to focus on this Dr. Mundo and focus on the Ren. So the Mundo jumps off the board. This is the Anomaly where he's going to jump back onto the board and stun everybody. It's actually not related to the Anomaly at all. And you can see here, look, this Rennie is getting a ton of mana. Let's pause here and look. This Rennie is about to cast, but she's getting quite low HP and the Mundo is in front of her. And look at what happens when she does end up casting here. She casts, dies, and then what happened to our Mundo? He disappeared. This is a bug that happens when Rennie casts and then dies. She basically keeps the unit with her for 20 seconds. I believe someone said she actually, they transport to the middle of the board. Actually, they transport to the carousel, and I think we have a clip of that later. But you can see eventually all of our units die, and this Smeech stays alive here and just sits here waiting for Mundo to come back to the board. And eventually he'll start flying back to the board. You can see Powder and Jinx start auto-attacking in a second here, and this is because Mundo is flying back to the board. And you can see they start autoing. Mundo's like up here somewhere, and eventually he gets to where Smeech can kill him. And we end up losing the fight because of this. We go down to 1 HP here. We take 13 damage, 3 units alive, stage 5. One could certainly say that with this Mundo alive, would this fight have gone differently? Because, I mean, you think about it, like right about here, Smeech is killing all these units on the left side here. If we have a Dr. Mundo here, dealing damage, killing these units off faster, getting like a cast off, healing back up. The big thing is once these units are dead, it's possible that Mundo would then drag the Smeech up here. The Smeech would go onto the Mundo here and wouldn't actually end up reaching this Silco. It's very possible that, you know, the fight RNG would have dragged these units up here, because what happens here is Smeech immediately hops onto our Silco, kills our Silco, and we lose the fight. If our Mundo's up here buying more time, Silco can get a few extra casts off. I mean, you can see how much damage the Silco does. Like that one cast did, I don't know, like 25% of Smeech's HP. So if we get 2 more casts off, we certainly win this fight, and it's a completely different game. The only thing that actually adds an interesting layer to this is that Mundo has an Edge of Night, which maybe you could say then Mundo actually would have like dropped aggro and then Smeech would have got killed anyway, which is a crazy another piece of this. But I think it's at least, you can at least say there is suspicion that had this incredibly big bug not have happened, we could have potentially won this fight. And there's huge implications for us winning this fight, actually, because this person that we fight here, Diga Sparta, this person is 2 HP. Had we won this fight, they would have died here. And I actually have a clip. This is from a co-stream, and this is, you can see, this is 5-3 as it occurs. You can see Horo X ends up losing here. It actually takes a second here for them to lose the fight, and we drop down to 1 HP. This player, Yobadashi, ends up going out in 8th here. So this game was always a top 7. Had we killed Diga Sparta, it would have been a 6th at least instead of a 7th. And honestly, when I was looking at this as well, Horox drops down to 1 HP here from 14, so he took 13 damage. Check this out. We die by -11 here. So this is actually even more potential placements, right? Because we would actually have been alive here. Diga Sparta would have been dead here, but that's 1 placement guaranteed, and then even more placements if we can win future fights. But actually, all that matters is 1 placement. Why? Well, if you go to the score sheet, the days 1 and 2 leaderboard, Horo X ended up not making it to the final day, the final lobby, literally off tiebreakers, 61 points. Had he had 1 more point, which this game would have guaranteed 1 more point, he would have made final lobby. 7 out of 8 of the people who made final lobby go to world championships. And if you just look at this from a financial standpoint, Horex goes out in 9th here, makes $600. If he could win the entire tournament, he would make, you know, way more than that, almost $13,000, and book a trip to Tactician's Crown, which, you know, obviously has an even bigger prize pool than this. So the actual like monetary amount lost on this is actually quite huge, right? at the minimum, had we even gone 8th, and not made it to Tactician's Crown, it's still like, $800 or something, which, is significant, but I don't think people would be that upset about losing out on $800. But potentially the big thing I would say is losing out on the ability to go to World Championships, because as far as I know, I don't think Horox has ever gone to the World Championships before. Yeah, he's done pretty well in Tactician's Cups, in the EMEA in the past couple of sets, but yeah, hasn't been to the World Championships before. So that's kind of the situation. Let's lay out some more stuff here. So first, let's talk a little bit about HoroX, actually. Tanner, who posts a lot about the Chinese community, talked about this, is that HoroX is a player who is from China, who's actually moved to EU, moved to the United Kingdom, yeah, I believe. And then HoroX also kind of types a little bit about himself here. Started playing TFT and Challenger since set 6 in China server, but not really entered competitive. As I physically moved to UK since set 11, I've decided to seriously play TFT. In set 12 Golden Spatula Cup, I ended up with 14th. In set 13, I finished with 61 points. We just saw, ended up 9th, losing by tiebreakers. And then the Rennie bug without the bug, So yeah, it's kind of saying like, I feel like, I was a good enough player to reach the finals and go to the World Championships, basically. So yeah, this is a player who is actually from China, but is playing in EU, is very, very high ranked in EU, actually. You can see also, he changed his name to Bug Loser #Rennie, I believe, which, I mean, clearly, obviously very upset about this, but you can see rank 14 EU West, and that's actually after, having a pretty bad run of games, peaked to 1800 LP, 600 games played. This is someone who's very, very involved in the TFT community. I'm in some of the more involved TFT community discords, and this is someone who is constantly posting, asking for clarification about, when's this patch coming out? How does this mechanic work? This is someone who is putting their all into TFT. And so obviously very, very upset when something like this happens. So that's kind of the base of it. This player, Shilao, ended up making this this post about it because I think HoroX and them know each other. Yes, this is the VOD actually of Mundo walking back to the field, I believe. Yeah, I wanted to see this here. Who's do we get to see the Mundo walking back to the, yeah, you can see the Mundo walking back to where he should have been, right, where he ended up getting stunned here. So you can actually see walking back, I believe it was from Carousel, is that Rennie transports them to Carousel. So that's another little piece of that. And then here's another huge part of it. You can also actually see here, we can do one more clip as well, is that the bug ends up happening again, I believe. Oh yeah, look at this. Wow, Rennie casts there on the Garen and teleports it away. And that was a Garen that was alive with the Jinx alive back here. Wow. So yeah, this is a huge bug that is actually reproduced here. Though honestly, did Garen have anti-heal? I wonder if Smeech would have actually beat the Garen in the 1v1 anyway. I'm not 100% sure. But that's another piece of it. So that's what happened this game. But there's also a piece of this that, if you guys, I didn't actually make a video about this in the past, but this is something else that happened earlier in this set. And there was this Reddit post about this, where there was this bug with Jace. So let's go and look at this Jace bug real quick. So once again, you can actually, there's not that much to keep, watch this fight, but just note that we're playing for Emissary, for Black Rose here. We're playing just a Black Rose, kind of cool Black Rose Emissary Sorcerer setup. We have this Garen here. It ends up getting ulted by Jace, and then gets ulted again by Jace, gets, portaled off the board. We end up losing this fight. This is Zeta Kess here. And so we end up losing this fight. The Jace portals off our Garen off the board. But then I want you to ask a question, which is where is our Garen? And the answer is, I don't know. We still have 4 Emissary in, which Kess is looking at here. Hey, I have 4 Emissary in, but I think our Garen is right here, but he's invisible and not actually on the board here. And so this actually ends up getting paused, and the APAC officials say the game needs to be remade. Okay, so let's look back again here. This is 4-6 here. The game just gets remade, and they play another entire game out here. What's interesting though is that in NA, the exact same thing happens. And we have, yes. So we have here, oh, actually it was got rid of, but it's written out here. In A, the exact same thing happens. This is actually rough because it was Zilman Cats. It was a gloves off 3-star Vander. And that Vander gets deleted by Jace, but a remake is not allowed because in the NA rulebook, it says you can't have a remake after 2-1. And so I want to go back into the rulebook, especially for EMEA, and say, okay, what does the rulebook actually say for bugs in EMEA? What should have occurred here in this game with Horror X, where there was a pretty significant bug? But there's actually not much here. You can see this is it about bugs, game bugs. A player playing in the Teamfight Tactics TFT EMEA Esports EMEA Tournament Series, why does it say EMEA twice? Whatever. Will not knowingly use any bugs to gain a competitive advantage. In the event that this happens, a disciplinary action will be taken at an admin's discretion. I scroll through all the rest of the rules. I do not see another rule in here that refers to game bugs. This is all that we have that talks about game bugs here, which is crazy. There is no ruling really here in EMEA for what should happen if there is a game bug. And so the first kind of like thing that I want to suggest here that I think is important is that we need more consistency about this. It is quite crazy that the exact same bug can happen. We've kind of centralized, you know, there was a time where, you know, there are all these different kind of like regional things that were happening here, but Riot's actually like done a really good job of consolidating the format in here. Let me just pull up, do we have like a Frodan stream here? Oh, no one. Oh, Frodan, he's looking at patch notes. Am I really gonna pull up Shurko? Let me pull up Riot or Teamfight Tactics, and I'll pull up a VOD to just watch while we let's watch like the end of the Golden Spatula here. Yeah, I'm down to watch this while I talk through everything because you know it's nice to have something going while I talk. And honestly, we'll skip past the early game because I'm not gonna be able to talk for an hour on this. But okay. So this is the first thing that needs to be suggested is, and I think it's quite obvious, is that we need more consistency, right? It is crazy that the same bug can happen in APAC and Americas and be treated two completely different ways, especially when, like I was saying, there's been so much work to be done to make APAC basically the same thing as Americas. Wow, Kevin Parker's backdrop is so nice. He's got, let's just go back and look at that real quick. Look at that giant Alloon that he has. How did he get that? That's so cool. Just have the giant Alloon in your background and stuff. Was this from Riot Games, man? Whatever. Okay. And so, yeah, there's been so much work done to centralize what's going on to make the exact same thing be happening in NA versus EMEA versus APAC. So how come then there is this huge difference? And you know, this kind of stuff happens in just regular sports. You know, there are bad calls by refs that end up, you know, causing sports games to go in completely different ways than, you know, they should have, perhaps. You know, people will say like that was just straight up a bad call by the ref, and especially you know, in other sports, this happens more frequently than not. But you should we should do everything we can to reduce that from happening, right? I think esports is actually like an interesting area where, you know, a lot of this stuff we can just say like binary, this happened or it did not happen. We have, you know, replays of everything, very, very easy, very, very straightforward. And so, you know, you very rarely in like League of Legends or like Valorant see like a bad call from a ref end up like causing a game to you know, have something, you know, happen that's like a problem for the competitiveness of the game. So I would say like the first thing is just make the rules very clear and standardize them across the regions. I see no reason why there should have been this completely different thing that happened in APAC versus NA or Americas, but I can see why it happened because the rules seem very unclear. If I'm an EMEA you know, tournament admin and HorrorX had paused the game here, I don't think HorrorX did actually end up pausing the game there, which is another piece of it, is I don't think there even was a possibility of remake because HorrorX did not pause, I believe. But had HorrorX paused there and said, hey, can I get a remake? My unit was just deleted off the board. Like I lost the fight because of this. It's very, I don't know which way the admins would have gone. They could have very easily said, there'll be no remake, you know, like that was just a fight. That's fight RNG. You know, sometimes the game bugs out and that's life. I will say there is also kind of a difference between these two things. There is, I would say, a pretty big difference between a fight that causes you to lose one fight. Obviously this fight mattered a lot, but a bug that causes you to lose one fight versus a bug that deletes your unit for the rest of the game, especially when it's like a Vander 3, is hugely influential because HorrorX, you know, maybe winning versus losing that fight is the difference between a 6th and a 7th, which perhaps that would have just been the difference, 6th versus 7th. That is 1 point difference, but I don't know if it actually makes sense to remake an entire game practically right now. And this is another point that I want to talk through, but practically right now, I think the correct ruling would not have actually been to remake this game, which seems crazy, but what happens when you remake that game is everybody has to replay that entire game that means that everybody else who is in that tournament has to wait for that entire game to replay. So all these players are sitting and waiting for another, like basically hour for another entire game to play out. And the difference is 1 point, which under most circumstances would probably not have actually made a huge difference. Here is the one time that it did make a huge difference. So I will say that for bugs like this that end up causing like one fight to be a loss that should be a win, I actually don't think that there should be that there should be remakes in general. I will get to what I think the ideal situation is, but I don't think in this situation that not remaking was actually a problem, but I do think the inconsistency of the rulings and just the lack of clarity is really bad. I do think, interestingly enough, that in a situation where your Vander 3 gets deleted off the board, you kind of do have to remake from that spot because the game is completely destroyed, you know? Like, a person with a Vander 3 could be going, you know, top 2, top 1 in that situation. And without the Vander 3, they might go 7th, they might go 6th, you know, they might even go 8th, depending on the lobby HP. And so I think that's a situation where if there's actually like I would call it like a game-breaking bug, a game that like greatly, like deleting your unit off the board is so great game-breaking that I do think the game would have to be replayed, even though obviously that sucks for everybody else, but I feel like you kind of have to do that or else it's completely unfair. But there's one other kind of idea here that I think is the best solution, but it's also the hardest to implement because it requires actual, you know, a completely new system to be created for Riot Games, where if you guys watched League of Legends, and I don't know if they do this in Valorant, I've never seen it in Valorant, but maybe a similar thing exists in Valorant. But if you guys have watched League of Legends, you know if there's a really, really big bug in game, they'll pause, and sometimes they'll do a thing called Chrono Break, which is this like system that Riot created, which is a way to kind of like replay. It like brings the game back up to right before the bug occurred, and then they unpause and we play from there. That is the perfect solution for League of Legends. And I have heard some people say that like it's actually not 100% consistent. Sometimes they'll try to chrono break and be like, actually we can't, which sounds like it's a little bit scuffed, which I mean, yeah, Riot Games, it happens. But that's definitely the best system for League of Legends, right? Because if you have a game-breaking bug in League of Legends and you have to replay the game, you know, then obviously all of the people watching the broadcast have to watch an entire game get replayed. That's a lot. That is a ton. At least in TFT, you could like pivot to a different lobby and then, you know, like the main broadcast, but also who cares about main broadcast? Because like, yeah, we don't care about main broadcast. We've deprioritized that a lot. But I think Chrono Break is perfect in League of Legends. And I think if we could get to a Chrono Break type solution in TFT, it would be fantastic. And I think, you know, obviously I'm not a programmer, so this is like disgusting speculation, but my intuition is that it would be easier to make something like that in TFT than League, because all you have to do is remember all the units, all the augments, all the econ states for everybody. You don't have to know like the positioning of every single like player on a map in League of Legends or their like XP and all this kind of stuff. All you have to do is just reset all their boards. I don't think people would even care if they had to like, if it just spit out all their units just like in the back few rows and they had to reposition. I don't think people would care. You just need to remember that kind of stuff. And so that's something where theoretically, like it sounds easy, but also I don't know, you know, what TFT is built on. So like take what I'm saying with a huge grain of salt. It might even be harder than in League of Legends, but I do think it's something that one could certainly say is necessary if, you know, the competitiveness of TFT wants to be brought even further up. This is another piece of it where obviously Chrono Break is a higher priority in League of Legends, because League of Legends esport is a bigger portion of, you know, League of Legends as something that exists, right? TFT esports, you know, in League, it's like the competitive scene and then like the casual scene. You know, competitive scene is like, I don't know, 40% of League, and then casual is like 60% of League. These are numbers I'm pulling on my ass. And then like TFT is like, the competitive scene is like this tiny little sliver. It's like 5% of the scene. Like people like watching the competitive scene. They like watching like Soju compete and stuff like this. But the huge majority of people, like I guess the percent can be like what percentage of players watch the competitive scene. And I think in League, it's, you know, actually, it's probably like 30% or something, or maybe even less, 25%, because, you know, like there are a lot of people who just play the game super, super casually. But in TFT, it's like probably using those numbers, extrapolating, probably like under 1%. And so that's why something like this doesn't exist. And so that's why I'm saying like that's the best solution. But do I expect you know, Mortdog or who are the powers that be at TFT to be like, hey guys, we were working on, you know, this new thing that's gonna like, you know, some mechanic for TFT, but I want everybody who's working on that system to get out of there. Like, you guys were working on Augments 2. Everyone stop working on Augments 2. We're gonna work on Chrono Break. Do I expect that to happen? No. But I do think it's something that would be ideal. So it's something that ideally would be prioritized. For now, though, I really think because we don't have that, and I don't know how long it's going to take for us to get to that. I think the best solution is one, standardize the rulebooks. I think the rulebooks are relatively standardized, but just put more clarity in the rulebooks about what happens under what happens when there is a bug further into the game. I do think you can kind of differentiate between these game-breaking bugs and these bugs that just cause like a round loss or something like that. If it actually does something that changes the entire kind of like texture of the lobby, and I know that's not a technical explanation of it, but if it's something that changes like the possibility of people playing for top 4 and things like that, where multiple placements could be skewed off, I do think then a full remake is needed. And if you are in a situation where it just is a difference between one fight, I honestly think that you probably shouldn't remake in that situation. And that's where you guys can come in. Do you guys think in the Horror X situation that game should have been completely remade? Obviously Horror X would say for sure I want that game to be remade because it cost him Worlds, which I mean potentially very likely cost him Worlds, which is, I mean, I can understand being incredibly upset. That is one of the worst ways to go out, to say that like you lost this placement literally just because of a bug, right? Like that's so rough to be like, I could have done everything exactly the same, but had there not been that bug, I might have actually made it, which is, I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But I mean, let me know what you guys think, what you guys' take is on the whole situation, because I'm very, very curious actually where you guys are at with this. I like these kind of discussion type videos because I can then see like what everybody thinks, what the general consensus of, at least in my viewers, is. Also, let's skip more towards the end of this so we can at least see the conclusion of this game. But yeah, it's a really messy topic. There's a lot of stuff. I think I basically covered everything as far as like my thoughts on the topic and all the little other kind of like pieces to pull in here. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think it really, really sucks for HorrorX. Obviously, someone who puts a ton of work into the game and a ton of dedication. And so, to have that all go out here, that's rough. HorrorX did in that Twitter post basically say that he was done with competitive TFT and that he was trying to become like a coach because like this experience just kind of disgusted him, which I understand. I hope that HorrorX does continue to play competitive. He said he was gonna, do more like coaching and stuff like that, which I mean, I think there is definitely room, especially with like the way the TFT scene is evolving for, coaches and stuff like that to exist. So, maybe that's something that could exist as well. But I would say sucks that EMEA would lose such a strong competitor, someone who's so dedicated, someone who could have made Final Lobby and potentially made Worlds to something like this. So hopefully HorrorX reconsiders. Obviously right now, super emotional and a lot, happening emotionally. So I can understand it. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this entire situation. Do you guys think this game should have been full remade? What do you guys think about the idea of a Chrono? I think everyone will probably say Chrono Break and TFT is a good idea, but maybe there's someone out there who's like, no, we shouldn't have Chrono Break for some reason. And what do you guys think about the other things, standardizing rule sets, that kind of stuff? What do you think the line in the sand should be for all these different kind of bugs and stuff like that? So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe. I don't think does HorrorX stream? I was gonna say I could I'll throw his. I mean, he really doesn't tweet. He's basically only tweeted about this situation. So I don't know. I could drop his, I'll drop his Twitter down there if you guys want to read through his tweets and stuff like that. But yeah, shout outs to HorrorX. Like I said, a very strong player, a very, someone who's really, really competing. He's going through it right now, but hopefully, I would say, hopefully he bounces back from this and continues to play competitive TFT. Or, do TFT in some degree, because obviously a talented player, obviously someone who is really, really good at the game, so it would suck to lose them from something like this. All right, I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.